So now we're discussing supervised 2D tracking, and this is crucial for almost every shot that I get, because I only get the difficult shots. The easy stuff, you hit the auto button, you're done. But we covered already why some shots can't be auto tracked or shouldn't be attempted in that realm. Let's get into it. So here we have our shot. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a preset in the image preparation setup. Here we are. We're going to do what we always do, say new preset. We're going to call it icon, and we're going to turn off everything except for color and blur related. And then I'm going to go to levels, and I'm going to set the high to, I don't know, about 0.75, and set the gamma to like 1.7. What does high 0.75 mean? And why is the gamma go up when we darken the image? That doesn't make any sense, does it? So to describe this to you, I'm going to actually use Fusion. So here's Fusion. And you can see that I have this color corrector set up so that I can go right back and forth between these two apps. And you can see that in Synthesize, this looks pretty identical to that. Let's go to the color corrector here and just set these values back to the defaults. Let's go back into Synthesize. I'm going to make a new preset. I'm going to call it Reset Color. And I'm going to turn off everything except for color and blur related again. All right, good. But for this preset, I'm going to set these back to the defaults. Okay. When we look at it here in Synthesize and then we go back to Fusion, they're identical. So let's start with in the icon, high 0.75. In Fusion, that high point is going to be controlled by the gain function here. And so with gain, I'm going to say 1 divided by 0.75. And that's going to raise this gain to 1.33. That's the inverse of 0.75. So over here, 0.75. Now we have to look at gamma, 1.7. We're going to look at gamma here, and we're going to say 1 divided by 1.7. And that looks identical to that. This is why in the image preparation setup, these values work the way they do. And how in your compositing application of choice, Nuke, After Effects, Fusion, whatever, these values correspond. Let's get in here and start doing some tracking. So when I'm going to start doing 2D tracking, I'm going to go into the tracker room and I'm going to go to Layout, Camera, and Graphs. And it's going to bring up this graph down here. On your machine, for the first time you're running this, it might look like this. Just drag that down. And then use your middle mouse button wheel to scroll down to where you can see active trackers. And then it'll show you how many trackers you have active all the time. It'll also show you in the bottom error histogram window, but you need to have some work done before it starts reporting back. I like this. It works great. The ASDF key, thumb on the space bar, is going to start coming in handy right now. Let's lay down our first tracker. When I did this the last time, in the last tutorial, I told you my first feature was this stoplight. And we're going to do that again. So I'm going to go back to the first frame where it becomes really good. I think right here, frame 43. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to hold down the C key. With your fingers on the ASDF keys, it's almost like playing a video game. You get used to the nearby keys becoming your crouch and jump. In this case, the C key is right below the F key. So I just take my finger off and I hit the C key and I can create trackers. We're going to get that on target there. We're going to shrink the pattern a little tiny bit. And the first thing I want to discuss is the key now and this little spinner. This is the key every spinner. So I'm going to set this to 8. One of the habits you should form when you start every single shot is go to track and say stop on auto key. It's right here. And what that will do is when I hit the space bar, it'll stop after 8 frames. We covered that in the last video, but I can't emphasize it enough. But take a look here. I'm gonna look at how fast it goes. So Synthesize is tracking at some crazy high speed, and in order to bring it under control in terms of what we're viewing, go to the View menu and go to normal speed. And now it will play back at a normal speed. So let's play that forward. And now it's playing at a normal speed, but we see our tracker has jumped way off. And that's because our search area is not big enough. So let's make our search area bigger. We know because the history of it running off screen here, it shut off earlier. So we need to kind of manually deal with it. And for that, we're gonna deal with this errant tracking history. So I'm gonna go to this frame 50, and that's good. But I'm gonna go to frame 51. I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to right click on the key Now button. And it blows away all of the tracking history from that frame forward. Let's look at that again. Undo, Shift right click on key Now. All of that tracking history is gone. And we can resume with our tracking at this point because we've revised our search area and our tracker is good. Okay, so let's go forward. Let's go forward. Just tapping the space bar. And I'm gonna actually let it go off target here, and I'm gonna let it kind of screw up a little bit. Because I want to next discuss what the key smooth is all about. So let's go back to the beginning. I'm gonna actually shrink my tracker size even more. I'm gonna go forward a frame and I'm gonna blow away all the tracking history. And I'm just gonna hit the space bar with the tracker pattern size a little too small, which will make it more difficult for Synthesize to hold on to the correct thing. And I'm doing that intentionally to show you how key smooth works. All right. So you'll notice here, our tracker is pretty far out of position. If I make the tracker bigger now and I make a keyframe for the pattern size, at the end, you can see the tracker is well out of position. If I move the tracker back into position, and I'm going to lock the tracker just to illustrate a point. So if I lock the tracker here, you can see if we play forward, it just suddenly snaps into position. And you can see that between these two frames. So here, the pattern is up and to the left, and here we've recentered it. So let's go to frame 115 and turn key smooth up to 8. And I'm just gonna tap the D key and watch what happens as I move forward. So as I track forward, it's smoothly eased into the new position. That's what key smooth does. So if you're off target a little bit on one frame and then you go to the next frame and you've manually positioned it, it will smoothly get into that position. One more thing about this. On your machine, with your default settings, smooth after keying may be on. There'll be a little check mark next to it. I leave it off because with smooth after keying on, here, let's leave it on for right now. With smooth after keying on, when you go to a frame and you start moving around on the keyframes, watch what happens to the surrounding tracker trails. You can see that here. You can see the whole tracker trail kind of smoothly readjust, which is nice. You might think, oh, that's great. I love that. And it is good. It's a good feature to have for when you need it. But sometimes when your pattern size is really big, or if your scene has become very complex, and you forget that you have smooth after keying turned on, you're gonna find that clicking on this and dragging it around, it becomes very unresponsive. And that's what's gonna happen with your tracker, and you're not gonna know why. You're gonna say, what is happening? Why is it all like coming to a crushing stop? Turn off smooth after keying, and it will speed things way up. But watch what happens now when I move this around. So it doesn't automatically smooth out those frames. And now you have to go in and go back to the previous frame. Again, ASDF, hit the A key, take you back to the previous keyframe, and then tap the D key and track through again, and it'll smooth out. So you're gonna do that anyway when you QC your tracker. Now we've finished this track. This is as far as we can take it. I'm actually gonna track a little farther. There we go. So now we see the stickers start to creep in a little bit here. I create a keyframe on that frame. Actually, it automatically created a keyframe there because key now is set to 8. But if I wanted to create a keyframe here, you can click in this window. Great. And you'll see that the now button turned blue again. I'm gonna undo that. You can click the now button and it'll make a keyframe there. So that's what the key now button does. Let's undo that again because we don't need that keyframe. And then when we go to this frame, I'm going to shut off the tracker. Hotkey for that is the plus key. And the plus key is right next to my mouse. So sometimes I'll take my hand off the mouse and tap the plus key. So there you go. Lock the tracker. We don't want to lock the tracker here. We want to turn off the tracker. We want to turn off the tracker. The hotkey for that is the E key for enable. So I can turn it off there. And then once it's off, I can hit the plus key to lock the tracker, or you can click on the little lock symbol, either way. All right, so we're good. We can lock the tracker. We're done with that tracker, right? No, we're not. We have to QC the tracker before we move on. Oh, brother. All right, so let's unlock the tracker. I'm gonna go back to the first frame of our track. I'm gonna make the pattern a bit bigger because it shouldn't have been that small. I made it too small to bring out some problems. But I'm going to tap the 5 key to keep the tracker centered. And I'm gonna keep my eye on the middle of the screen. And I'm gonna hold down the D key to track forward. There, that's perfect, and it looks good. So if I go back here, why did I hold down the D key? Because if I just hit the space bar and play it forward, you can miss things pretty easily, especially in these heavy motion blur areas. Like if you're not totally on target there and the tracker goes just for a frame and you're playing it at normal speed, you can miss those things. So with the D key, it'll slow it down a little bit. Remember earlier when I showed you show normal speed or view normal speed? You can go quarter speed and you could hit the space bar on that and view it in quarter speed if you wanted, or half speed or normal speed. But I just hold down that D key and that slows it down enough for me to stay on target. Remember, when you hold down the D key and the tracker's unlocked, you're tracking. You're not just playing, you're actually tracking. If you forget to lock your tracker, you're tracking. So you might leave a few trackers unlocked. You're gonna be retracking those. It's gonna slow the whole process down. And Synthesize will start incrementally slowing down. So every single time you finish a tracker, lock the tracker. I just want to show you very quickly how fast I can track that feature without all of this explanation. So unlock the tracker, shift right click key now, blow away all my tracking history. Tap, 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 tap. Okay, it's bad there. I go here, right shift click key now, turn off the tracker, go back to the first frame, zoom in a bit, play. Tracker looks good, lock. There, done. That's how long it should take you. So it might seem super meticulous, but I'm slowing down. I'm going into slow motion to let you into my mind and how I do this. So that's all I wanted to cover in this tutorial. I wanted to really cover key every, what the key now button does, key smooth, how the image preparation setup numbers work, and basically how to set up a shot. That's it for now. I'm gonna see you in the next video. In that video, I'm gonna go into building out the scene more, discussing the color of this time bar right down here, which is all salmon. And we covered it a little bit in the last video, but I'm gonna really get into it. And I'm going to start tracking some of these posts, which are really difficult features to track, and the pattern changes on every frame. So how can you possibly track something like that? I'm going to show you. So that's it for now. Please like the video if you found this at all helpful. Please subscribe. And leave comments and questions and I'll answer them. And then I'll see you in the next video.